Now, the first thing a band learns in a place like that is how to calm down a rowdy crowd. Well, the only thing you can do is out-rowdy them. Well, this next song I was found to be about the best out-rowdiest I ever wrote. Goodbye, Joe, we gotta go, Leo, my own. We gotta go, hold a hero down the bayou.
He led a hard life, but you know, he tells, he speaks a lot of truth, and you can hear, you can learn a lot about, you know, what he went through and how he suffered through his music.
While freely admitting he was unfamiliar with the artist, Zachary Stevenson dove headfirst into the role of Hank Williams and was immediately taken by the iconic country legend's heartbreaking journey.
He was a hurting guy. I mean, he lived a hard life. He only lived 29 years, but he looked a lot older, and I think he squeezed a lot of life into those years. He came from a very impoverished background and really made something of himself. But in that road to success, there were a lot of hardships. He had some strenuous and tumultuous relationships. He battled some health issues. He had spinal bifida, which led to sort of trying to self-medicate on alcohol and other things.
On the other side of the coin is Ken Ham, who grew up listening to Hank Williams records with his father, and that inspired him to become a musician himself, which led to 8 albums and a Juno. Being a part of this production has a feeling of completing the circle, but surprisingly, Ham is most excited to be part of the message.
Well, I think the focus of the show is the struggle an artist goes through to get acceptance and then to try and make a living out of your career. And by then, lots of times artists are sort of tortured and, you know, beaten down and worn out, that sometimes they don't have much left by the time they get to their successful careers. Look at Janis Joplin, for instance, or Jimi Hendrix, or, you know, a lot of people have had the same problems, haven't they? And it's a sad thing.
The biggest hurdle this production is up against is the casual theater goers who might not have the desire to sit through an entire evening of old school country music. But the cast hopes the public can see past their possible conflicting musical tastes and see the story for what it is: the rise and fall of one of music history's most influential performers.
There's a kind of quote about, you know, hey Hank, you know, how do you come by writing all these great songs? How do you keep putting them out? And he says, you know, brother, I live it. And that's how you do it. You can't fabricate this stuff. So
Hank Williams, The Show He Never Gave, runs at Persephone Theatre April 18th to May 6th. For all ticket information, hit persephonetheatre.org. For Shaw TV, I'm Curtis Anderson. With garbage bags in hand, the students at Sister O'Brien Elementary School recently helped kick off the annual Meewasin Cleanup Campaign by starting with their own playground. Sister O has long been a supporter of this initiative, and the kids were once again more than eager to do their part.
We just have a simple signing of the garbage bags.
We pick up garbage and clean it and put it in bags. I take the recycling to the place where they turn it into new stuff. And it keeps the earth alive longer.
And all the playgrounds. Look at, les amis, the playground. You can see a bunch of garbage that we have to clean up, okay?
Last year, Meewasin reported a new record when over 24,000 volunteers helped clean up the river valley and beyond, a project that Doug Porteous explains has a bigger impact on our city than just making sure Saskatoon is pretty.
Anything that is on our streets and our roads and in our driveways and our parks, When it gets washed away, it goes right into our storm sewer system. It is not filtered. It ends up in our river. And of course, where we get our drinking water from, where we get our washing water from the river.
As the campaign rolls into its 32nd year, the people of Meewasin continue to be impressed by the project's momentum. Already in 2012, sponsors such as Infinity Credit Union and 7-Eleven have stepped up. Some businesses have organized days off, allowing employees to donate their time. And of course, the city of Saskatoon itself continues to help out.
Waste Management has provided 7 of their dumpsters spread throughout the valley. There's one at the top of the hill here, a nice big green dumpster. They'll be there for a month, so you can just put your garbage in those places.
While officially the initiative only lasts for 1 month, Porteous hopes the awareness will continue long after the campaign ends.
And one of the ways we can start this is by cleaning up after ourselves.
To volunteer or for more information, contact the Meewasin Valley Authority or Affinity Credit Union. For Shaw TV, I'm Curtis Anderson.
Just visiting? Actually, I think I'm here for good. Yeah? It's
As Rock of Ages wraps up the Regina leg of their tour and makes its way to Saskatoon for 3 shows this weekend, I was lucky enough to catch a sneak peek of the performance earlier this week in the Queen City. To be completely honest, I didn't really know what to expect, but it wasn't this. Turns out Rock of Ages is somewhat of a gritty look at the music scene from the late 80s, early 90s, and while it immediately explodes with scantily clad dancers and profanity, it's actually a brilliantly written musical comedy that will transport you back to 1988 before you can say warrant.
I'm screaming in people's faces. I mean, you know, the audience gets up and, you know, dances and sings along with us. It's something that's really special, it's interactive, and it's something that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's usually billed as like the best party on Broadway. So if you come, you have to have that open mind of like, you are a part of the show. We break the fourth wall with the audience all the time and interact with them.
Yeah, it's almost impossible not to get swept up into the music as the hits come at you at a blistering pace. What makes this production unique is the band playing live on stage, which is just one more dizzying aspect that adds to the overall visual attack. Intertwining the Poison, Pat Benatar, and Bon Jovi are a number of stories. Some about love, some about loss, and lots about lust.
We had a 9-year-old.
A 9-year-old got hit in the face with pennies at our show, and her mom thought it was the funniest thing to happen.
She didn't stop laughing the whole number.
She was crying the whole show, the rest of the show.
That being said, though, we do put like a PG-13 warning on it.
Now I know there's some old rockers sitting on the couch right now that are still wearing their Twisted Sister leather jackets and are thinking, how can these kids who were barely born in the 1990s recreate the songs and the attitude from that era?
Yeah, some people will say, oh, I remember driving in my car and hearing that on the radio, or I remember like my prom and then playing that song and I had my first kiss to that song. So we have those references, and obviously we don't have those memories with the songs, but they're songs that you hear them all the time. So at least I was already familiar with the majority of the music in the show, but just in a different way. It didn't make it nostalgic for me in the sense that I was around when it first appeared on the scene and was this big new era of music. That wasn't my memory of it, but I definitely have my own memories for what I grew up hearing.
Rock of Ages comes to TCU Place for 3 shows this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. For ticket info, hit tcuplace.com. For Shaw TV, I'm Curtis Anderson.
Chin. Hey. Well, you seem like a nice... Ow! Hey! Stop! Hey! Are you okay? I was just mugged. Come on.
You are watching Shaw Arts and Entertainment. I am your host, Curtis Anderson. All these Shaw A&Es don't usually start off like that on the Mexican Wrestling Mask. We're going to have some fun today. High Impact Wrestling returns to the German Concordia Club this Friday night. A little over, 2 months ago, you guys kind of tore the place down. It was one of the best live wrestling shows I've seen in Saskatoon. Not usually performing in Saskatoon, though. It was kind of, it kind of broke open the door a little bit. Give me a little history of the promotion.
Well, HIW was established here in 1998, primarily in Regina. And we've grown the company exponentially throughout the years, bringing some big name stars in, Honky Tonk Man, the Bushwhackers and stuff, and we started growing, expanding our territory, broadening out to Yorkton, and now coming back to Saskatoon.
What took you so long to get to Saskatoon? Were you just not open to wrestling? Were there rival promotions? What was going on?
It took a little bit to build out the proper venue, time frame, a good location for that that's both accessible to the staffing and to the public as well, too.
Okay, you kicked open the doors to the German Concordia Club a couple months ago. How was the crowd response? How was the show? Your thoughts?
The crowd was amazing. I ended up working the first match of the night, and they just blew the roof off the place. They wanted it. Saskatoon's been wanting wrestling for a really long time, and that night we gave it to them. I mean, it was 3.5 hours of just, high-flying, nonstop action. The HIW wrestlers, they give it their all. They go out there, and they're jumping everywhere. They do what they can to entertain everybody.
Wrestling itself has gone through so many changes in the last 2 decades. What is HIW comparable to? Is it kind of the polished product? Is it more of ECW? Is it kind of SmackDown? What do you get?
HIW it's very traditional.
Okay.
The slogan, bringing wrestling back. It's not ECW. It's not WWE per se, or any.